IG with the Italian sports guys. Bada boom.
Bada bing.
And this is Brian Scheckstein, State Farm Insurance Coverage Show.
That's right. You want insurance coverage, you call Brian. You want sports coverage, you watch us.
You watch us. There you go. And, of course, recapping last weekend's action, we started, of course, with our beloved New Orleans Saints. Big win for the Saints. Got a lot of ways we can slice and dice this. I know we missed last week's show, so we have a lot to recap here. But I'm going to start right at the top with Sean Payton. We know Sean's a fiery guy. Sometimes lets the emotions get the best of him. But
Sure.
But I thought he handled the situation brilliantly. Going back to the Rams game, number one, he could have panicked and put Taysom Hill in and taken Bridgewater out. Who knows what that does for the confidence of this team.
Right.
Number two, he could have gone to that press conference and started blasting the officials. But you know what his message was to this team? It was, there are no excuses. You just do your job. There's a lot of film we got to clean up this week and look at. And that's really set the tone for this team all week.
I thought that he knew that they didn't play worth a darn against the Rams as the game moved on. Look, it's a game of momentum. Football's a momentum game, and definitely the momentum was stolen from us with a bad call, but you got to get past that. And that's what he was saying. He was saying, look, enough of the excuses.
Yeah.
I get it. They screwed up. The Foot Locker screwed up. But we can't control that. And we didn't play very well going forward. I understand kind of how and why, but nonetheless, you still have to answer that bell, and we didn't. And this week, I think he showed everything that he is about from a leadership standpoint. He was ready all week. He had that cat that ate the canary look all week. He had something up his sleeve. He was getting back to organic coaching. He didn't have the guy that he had to pull all the puppeteer that Drew Brees has become with this offense. He went back to saying, hey, I got a new guy and I get to grow him. And that's the beauty of coaching, is when you see somebody grow. And I thought that he was seeing Teddy Bridgewater grow during all week at practice, hence that look that he had. Yeah. That's just the way I see it. And then sure enough, after the game, he comes out and talks about what a great week of practice they had, how important that really is. Because they never talk about that.
Yeah, right.
You know, national shows don't talk about we do's.
That's right. You get it right here.
You get it right here. But seriously, I thought that they had a great week of preparation. They talked about what it was, and it gave them so much confidence going into that game.
Yeah, and you look at leaders of any type really are often defined by how they handle crisis, and I thought that was important here. Give some shout out to the front office too. Look, they anticipated this event might happen, right? And we talked about this scenario the last couple of years a lot. Bridgewater maybe not can get you to the playoffs or Super Bowl by himself, but if Drew Brees goes down 4 to 6 games, can he get you to 500 or so? And I think the foresight of this front office to step up and pay him what he needed to be paid to keep him here was big. Number two, planning that week in Seattle. All the players talked about having a week away from everything, away from all the noise, to focus.
Hunker down mentality.
That's right. There was a buzz. The people who covered that sport or on the scene in practice there really talked about how this was a different team last week.
Yeah, again, hunker down mentality, us against the world type of deal. And I thought that it really galvanized this group to where they could focus on anything or focus on nothing but football. Yeah. And it showed when they got on the field. You saw they came out. They were ready to play.
Yeah. Getting to the game itself, of course, we had a big special teams touchdown here early. I thought that was key in really setting the tone because it allowed Bridgewater to kind of settle in and not have to do too much too early.
Look, we would have been underdogs going into that game with Drew Brees, so we were certainly underdogs without him. And when you're an underdog like that, what's a great equalizer in football? Turnovers. Yeah. And if you can go out there and steal a touchdown and flip the field on them, which the Saints certainly did, it gives you that advantage. Those things happen, and all of a sudden you can see yourself moving into that winner circle in that game. Yeah. And I thought that Deontay Harris's punt return was a total spark for that team where, hey, we kicked off to them. They had the ball first. We stopped them, and boom, we scored. Yeah. All of a sudden, that's a big swing. It's a possession swing. It's everything. So
takes the crowd out of the game as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that crowd, look, they got loud at times, but it wasn't like it used to be. It wasn't like it's been in the past.
Yeah. And you mentioned the field position. Boy, what a day Morstead had. Maybe his best game as a Saint.
So good, in fact, that the league drug tested him this week.
The day after.
True story. Right, it really happened.
If you could have saved your money, watch this guy work out. You would have known it wasn't PEDs.
Right.
But 6 punts. I think he had 4 inside the 20 and 2 inside the 5. NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, very deserving.
One was a 60-plus yarder, too.
And remember, in those conditions as well, unbelievable.
Yeah, it was sloppy, it was wet, everything from the snap to the catch, and I thought that proved once again, look, not many teams in the league have a punter that's regularly the team captain. Yeah. Saints do for a reason.
Yeah, no doubt. And we talked about Bridgewater again. Maybe a game manager would be the kind of term you might use, but he did make some big plays in big spots. We had a touchdown drive where he converted a 3rd and 4, got it past to Mike Thomas. We got got that 4th and goal touchdown in one drive. Later in the game, another touchdown drive. He came back and converted a 3rd and 4. So in key moments when he had to be, he stepped up.
Yeah, and look, 19 to 27 is a very good completion percentage. The yardage was a little less than what you'd like to see, but you got to take into consideration the plays he had called back too. It's and the drops too. You know, it's some drops. Jared Cook still trying to find himself in this offense. So all in all, I thought he played as well as could be expected for a guy who's seeing his first look. I don't know. Talk about the last game of last year. It was a nothing game.
Right.
This one a lot on. He said so, and it was a lot on the line. Yeah. He had a lot to play for. You know, he said about maintaining his poise all week and keeping his cool all week. And as he preached that even to the team, he ended up just breaking down and crying before the game and then again after, because he was really playing his first meaningful football since I think the 2015 season.
Right. Yeah. Before that injury, big injury. Yeah. And again, when you have to rehab back from a major injury like that, it means that much more.
Nobody sees you when you rehab, and you're all on the side. You know, they don't. Coaches is the old football adage. They don't want the injured players around the rest of the team because they can see what happens. Yeah. You know, so you're off in your little corner over there, and you're working out on your own. It's a total different emotional dynamic.
Yeah, no doubt. And you only expect him to get better as he gets playing time. Also, he'll be back home for a couple of weeks with those friendly crowds behind him as well.
Absolutely.
You look at defensively, Kyle. I thought some things I saw that we liked. I thought our run defense continues to look pretty good. I like we're getting a pass rush. It looks like, you know, Hendrickson, as we mentioned, was impressive all through preseason. I think, you know, Davenport is showing some strides. He was very active in the backfield last week again.
I think he had his best game in a long, maybe his best game as
He did, yeah. Now, but I'll tell you this, Russell Wilson is a tough guy to defend. He really is.
Absolutely. Moves around back there. You know, they say, you know, the pocket is an inexact science. You have to kind of flow with it. Drew Brees does it as well as anybody. This guy does it almost as well as Drew, but he has that added dimension where he can take off, and boy, can he extend plays.
Yeah, right, sure.
Jeez.
Yeah, no doubt. And I did, on the defensive side, the thing that concerned me, the yardage is very misleading. A lot of that was in garbage time. Also, when you flip the field like we did with Morstead, they've got a longer field to play. We're going 40, 50 yards every time.
I'd rather be in our spot.
That's right. I'd rather be in our spot. But I do have some concerns once again. I hate to keep beating this dead horse. It seems like our guys in the back end, the safeties, are jumping shorter routes and letting plays get behind them. We saw that again this week.
Yeah, you can't have those explosive plays.
That's
you
right.
want
Too
them on
many
offense,
big
you hate
plays,
them on
right.
defense. You have to be able to stop that.
Yeah.
Like Russell Wilson has made a living extending a play and dropping a ball. He puts a serious arc on his ball. Yeah. And it's not just the deep passes, those intermediate and 25-yard routes. He drops those in over the defensive back's head and right over the receiver's shoulders into his hands as well as anybody I've ever seen. Yeah. Okay? So that's what you're fighting there. But all in all, you have a job to do. You can't give up those explosive plays. You can't let those guys get behind you. So, and they did. But I'll tell you what, who else played well? Marcus Williams.
Yeah, he did.
Very good score from Pro Football Focus.
Looking at also, we got some breaks finally. Of course, we talked about the call we got with the Rams. I don't want to revisit all that. But again, we got the defensive score where they didn't blow the whistle this time. Finally didn't blow the whistle. We had a non-call and a pass interference. 4th and 1, they tried to go deep on a ball once. And we had a guy maybe guilty of a little holding, but he let go as the ball went up, and you can't really review the holding. Only
you can't review.
That's right. Yeah. So you can't. So you can only review the pass interference. So technically, we got away with one perhaps there. But
but if you want, it was holding. But again, the ball was. You may have been able to call holding,
right.
But if you have to look at that play too. I mean, that was possibly a non-catchable ball.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, and he didn't throw it to the receiver who was, being interfered or being held. Yeah. And the ball wasn't there, and he let go, as you mentioned. So all in all, technically, I think by the rule of the book, by the letter of the law, it wasn't interference.
Yeah, you can't call interference. That's right. We also, there was a penalty on a field goal attempt that we missed, ended up scoring and converting a touchdown on that play.
Al Woods from New Orleans,
That's
former
right.
LSU. The Saints traded up to get him back in the day in the draft.
Giving his old
and
team
he finally paid off. It finally paid off, that move up to get him.
That's right. We'd be remiss if we did not mention number 41 in this ball game. Boy, he was phenomenal. Catching, running the ball. I'd say the conditions had a lot to do with the way he broke tackles, but we've seen this indoors, the way he runs the football. Just incredible balance. If you watch some of his workouts, he stands on top of one of those big balls in the workout room and has guys throw him tennis balls. The foot balance, the balance, the way this guy maintains his balance when he's running through great tackles is amazing.
Well, Alvin Kamara is 6'1", 215 pounds, more or less.
Yeah.
That's not and he doesn't look stocky. That's not a super thin build.
Yeah.
You see guys who look lanky, and he does look kind of long and lanky, So you don't associate that with the real balanced guy like an Emmitt Smith with shorter legs,
right.
and he has incredible balance for his build. It's like an optical illusion of almost to defenders trying to tackle him. Bobby Wagner from the Seahawks said we knew he was good. We didn't know he was this good. There's not a running back in football I would trade this guy for. Not one. Ezekiel Elliott on down. Wouldn't trade him.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen when come negotiation time. The next contract.
Different kind of back. I don't think you're going to have that. Oh my gosh, he's beating the hell. Do we really pay him? And I think the Saints. Again, we're getting way ahead of it here. Yeah. When it comes, I think they're going to give him a fat contract for about 3 years.
I don't think they have any choice. I mean, there's just too much of the offense runs through him, and as you mentioned, it's not one of these guys that's just a pounded back who you say is going to start to demise. In terms
so hard to get a clean hit on him.
It is, yes. Any more thoughts on the Saints, Scott, before we move on to
just a tremendous emotional lift for the team. In that locker room, for Teddy Bridgewater personally, it's kind of a redemption from everything he had to go through. It all came together, which resulted in his emotional deal with before and after the game. Yeah. I thought it was fantastic. I think it really gave this city an incredible lift. Yeah. And then they come home to play the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. So. Yeah,
it really sets us up. This is one. If you looked at those 6 games he's going to play while Drew is out, more than likely, this is one you would really put in the loss column if you had to go game by game. So I think we're kind of one up on the game. So
I called the Seattle game a loss, but I called the Dallas game a win. I thought that we would have such the Sunday night game in New Orleans is something special, and Sean Payton's never lost a Sunday night game.
How about that? Yeah,
at home.
At home, yeah. Moving to the college ranks, LSU Tigers. Boy, the numbers that they're putting up are just phenomenal. Again, I know Vanderbilt's not the elite of the SEC, but they're still SEC talent. And boy, you look at the numbers Joe Burrow put up last week. This offense, really incredible.
Mighty Joe Burrow is really locked in right now. I'll tell you that. It's to the point now where if you get on the bus and you play offense for the offensive side of the ball and you get on the bus, they're just about going to use you.
That's right. Yeah.
He is spreading the ball around. The yardage is incredible. The quick strike ability of that offense is something we haven't seen in a super long time out of Baton Rouge. Yeah. And to the point where it's affecting the defense a little bit. Yeah. But, I thought that Joe Burrow had another outstanding game. Thought the Tigers' offense was fantastic. Yeah. What a win.
Yeah, and you look at his completion percentage. It's not like he's throwing bubble screens all day. I mean, it's incredible the way they push the ball down the field. You mentioned, we talked about the intermediate passing routes. Some of these routes were intermediate routes that end up being big plays across. Jamar Chase went over the middle twice. Of course, 10 receptions, 229 yards for our former Romo Raider, four touchdowns. I think that was the most of any receiver for an SEC ball game for the Tigers. So I believe that was a record.
The record for overall was Carlos Carson in 1977, I believe. LSU beat Rice 77-0. He had, I think, he had 5 receptions, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think this was. They did specify 4 touchdowns in an SEC game. And you look at what I think is so impressive too is his ability to throw the ball over the middle. I mean, so many times that requires such a quick trigger. A guy can be really decisive because you're throwing in between lanes that are going to close up very quickly between linebackers and so on. I think his decision making is just second to none.
I think he reminds me of Wyatt Earp. The old legend of Wyatt Earp standing in the middle while the bullets whiz by him. Yeah. I mean, he's like that. He's got that kind of poise. We talk about his poise. And his toughness to stand into the pocket. He gets popped pretty good, and he's a fighter now. Yeah. And that's what you love about him. He's a fighter. He's not afraid to let you know about it either. So I think his ability to sit there and not, he feels the pressure. He inches out of the way, but he doesn't let it affect what he's trying to do. Yeah. And boy, what a game he had. So.
Yeah, again, 66 points, really phenomenal. Of course, we gave up 38. Now, a couple of those were turnovers on offense. But if you try to look for some things to critique here, it's kind of like looking on the pimple on the supermodel, right? But we were a little sloppy.
Get out of my house, baby.
we were
call a cab, you're out.
A little sloppy offensively. The turnover, you can't have that inside your own 5-yard line with a fumble. No. That's unacceptable. Defensively, hard to get a gauge because when you're scoring so many points, we talked about this, you tend to get a little bit lax defensively. We got a little dinged up as well, so we had some issues there. But a little bit sloppy defensively, and teams are running the ball a little better than I like to see against this defense.
That's the thing, it's the running the ball, because when you look at this defense, they went into the game missing 2 starters on the defensive line, Rashard Lawrence and Glenn Logan. Okay, Michael Divinity at linebacker got hurt during the game. In the secondary, Todd Harris, who was a starter at safety, was out. Okay, so they've made some changes going into this week, and plus Caleb Von Chason. Yeah. Who wouldn't miss him? Yeah. So those are Chason possibly could have played if they really needed him. But they lose Divinity during the game. That's a big blow. Yeah. You're going to see them tweak some things. They're tweaking some things at practice this week. They're working more on tackling. They have the bye week, so you go back to a little bit of a fall camp mentality, back to the fundamentals. They're going to bring in Cordell Flott, who's a freshman defensive back. They're going to play him some on the outside, and they're going to move Christian Fulton in a little bit to play over the slot. But by and large, they stop the run game and get him in 3rd and long. You're going to see what that defense is capable of. It is a cause for concern.
Yeah.
Okay, but you look around the country, too, and even the really dominant teams are giving up some points if they're playing anybody worth a snot, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, but you might almost get the sense that Alabama may try to slow this game down. Really a change of kind of tactics versus the years past.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, we have to get there first, but and look, they play a 10-win team in 2 weeks from Utah State, a 10-win team from last year, and then they play the Florida Gators after that. So that's where I think you'll have a real test of their mettle as far as what the defense can become. Dave Aranda's proven to be one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. One of the things that he was not crazy about was LSU switching to that spread offense because he knew it would limit his defense. Right. Now, the idea is to win the game as a team, and that's the main goal. Yeah. But when you're an assistant coach and your star is rising, you want to have your stats and your defense.
The numbers. Yeah, he does, yeah.
Why? So he can get paid.
Yeah, right.
And he already got paid. Right. So I don't think you're going to hear a whole lot out of Aranda.
Right.
Don't start fussing so much on this defense right now. They do have room for improvement. I get that. But you have to take into consideration the lack of rest that they're getting because his offense is so darn good against bad teams. They have to work a lot harder to score touchdowns against SEC opponents, okay? And when they do that, they'll be on the field a little longer. The defense will get a little bit more rest, and I think you'll see what they're all about. So.
Any other thoughts on LSU Tigers game time?
What a win. Unbelievable. Some other injury notes, too. Terrace Marshall, the all-everything wide receiver, they lost him. Justin Jefferson went out as well. Jefferson will be fine. Marshall will miss a few games at least. So he had surgery on his foot. They said it all went well, but then he's got to get back into it. So we'll see what happens there. Jamar Chase had a super game. Tight end Stephen Sullivan, they're going to move him to wide receiver while Terrace Marshall is out. Yeah. Okay, that's a big 6'6" target going across the middle there. If he can get it together, because Marshall was playing outstanding football, really was. Then they won't miss as much. But he's really got to step up and perform. Yeah.
Just want to give a quick shout out also. Of course, the Louisiana teams are doing pretty well so far. You got Nicholls State's bounced back from a big loss week 2. UL's Southeastern off to good starts. But we'd be remiss again if we didn't talk about what happened in Yeoman Stadium last Thursday.
Roll freaking wave.
A defining moment for that program and for this coach. Probably the biggest moment for this program since maybe that 98 season where they went undefeated. This was phenomenal. To do this on a national stage with some momentum off of last year against a named team is really impressive.
Well, Justin McMillan and then Jalen McCluskey, J.J. McCluskey's son. Yeah. Fantastic end to that game. Tulane was down 28-7 in this game. Okay, against a Houston team with Dana Holgorsen on the sidelines, De'Ara King at quarterback, and they were rolling. Yeah. And Tulane kept pounding them. And by the fourth quarter, Houston wanted nothing to do with that game in the trenches. Right. Tulane was putting it on them. Yeah. And that's something you never really saw before. And let's face it, in recent past, since 98, Chris Elfo regime had some great wins there too. But I really think over the past 10 or 15 years, those games are games that Tulane, when the moment was big, they were playing on ESPN, national, the Thursday night game of the week. Yeah. Coming off of a big win, they would have blown it. Yeah. And they didn't. And it looked like they were going to. So all that much more reason to say they're blowing it. Yeah. And they came back in a statement win for that program, and it's great to see it uptown. The students were having a blast in the student section, too. That's what you get when you put a stadium on campus.
That's right. And, of course, it's the only game in the nation that's on national TV, so you get all the eyeballs.
Yeah, not on ESPN 8 to Ocho. It was on
right.
ESPN, no other numbers.
That's right. And so a great look for this team. Again, the exposure, the way this team fought back and stayed in the ballgame when it was tough moments. And also the innovation, like that play just before to set up that big touchdown.
Fantastic.
Unbelievable. Great play call to set it up.
The fake victory formation.
That's right, fake victory formation.
There's a chance if he would have cut it up, he might have taken it to the house.
Yeah, I thought the blocker, if he could have got inside leverage on that defender, might have got him the sidelines and got up the sidelines.
Yeah, but it worked out perfectly. Now, if he gets that additional yardage, they stop the clock, you can spike it and you kick the field goal right there. But why kick a field goal when you get to score a touchdown?
You can take it to the house.
Great coaching call by Willie Fritz and his staff.
Yeah, no doubt. A great win for them, and certainly they can build upon that momentum after a big win like that. All right, we'll come back. I want to mention again, of course, our sponsors, Brian Scheckstein State Farm, and if you want coverage
for insurance, you go to Brian. You want coverage on sports, you come to us.
There you go. You got it covered. And also, of course, Luca Eats uptown.
7329 Cone Street, corner of Cone and Lower Line. Speaking of Tulane, before the next home game, call up and get your Big Luca, get your catering order set. There you go.
Stop by, grab a meal before the game, a little coffee inside or outside, or you take it to go. You
Outdoor dining. The weather's getting nice now. It's a great little place, a great local place. Great New Orleans flavor. Get your Oreo beignets.
Right.
Anything. Great stuff.
That's right. All right, we'll have a full audio segment, so you can catch us again out on our Facebook page. These videos will be on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. It's ISG Sports on YouTube. So we'll talk a little bit more about the bigger picture in the NFL and NCAA as well. And we'll be right back with all that. We are
the Italian Sports Guys.
Bada boom.
Bada bing.